Aussie Brooks knew the feeling of losing everything, but he had never felt it as sharply as he did while staring at the crumpled $30 in his hand. It was all he had left, enough for a sack of grain, maybe a week of food. Yet here he was, handing it to an old man who looked like he'd blown in with the dust itself. Ezekiel Marsh stood beside a leaning barn that looked as tired as the land around it. He kept tapping the wooden wall and repeating the same thing. Good for storage. Good for storage. Ozzie noticed how the old man's eyes changed, sharp 1 second, and lost the next, like he was trying to remember something just out of reach. There were fresh tire tracks leading to the barn. That was the first thing that made Ozzie uneasy. The second was the low noises coming from inside. Not the wind. Not settling wood. Something alive. Ezekiel pressed the deed into Ozzie's palm and spoke quickly. $30. But don't open that barn until I'm gone. Promise me that. Just give me time to get home. Ozzie wanted to ask questions. He wanted to understand why an old barn sounded occupied. But desperate men cling to hope, the same way drowning men cling to driftwood. $30 for a barn was a blessing he could not afford to question. He nodded, shook Ezekiel's trembling hand, and watched the old man's rusty truck rattle down the long dirt road. 20 minutes later, when the truck was nothing more than a speck swallowed by the Wyoming horizon, Ozzie finally walked toward the barn. Dry grass brushed against his boots. Dust swirled around his legs in the warm afternoon wind. The hinges groaned like they had spent the last decade begging to be left alone. When the doors swung open, the smell hit him first. Hay, sweat, leather, and something else. Something weak and starving. Ozzie stepped inside and felt his heartbeat shift. In the far corner stood a massive Clydesdale horse, bigger than anything he had ever seen outside a parade. Its coat was tangled and dull. Ribs showed through the fur. Its head lifted slowly like the weight of the world had been tied to its neck. Empty feed buckets sat against the wall, coated with dust and spiderwebs. No one had cared for this animal in a long time. "Good Lord," Ozzie whispered. The horse did not shy away. It simply watched him with dark, tired eyes, the kind that made a man feel small. Even half-starved, the animal was beautiful. Purebred. Worth thousands, yet it stood here abandoned in an old barn the size of a coffin. Ozzie's stomach twisted. Either Ezekiel had completely forgotten the horse existed, or something deeper and darker had happened in that family. He took one careful step and saw the limp. The front left leg was injured. Maybe an old break, maybe something worse. Treatable, but not by a man who had $30 to his name. He reached for his phone, stopped, and lowered his hand. How was he supposed to explain any of this? He had bought a barn from a confused man who might not even have the legal right to sell it, and now he had discovered a valuable horse inside. If he reported it, would they thank him or accuse him of stealing? If he helped the horse, would they call him a thief? The Clydesdale made a low, soft sound that pulled Ozzie's heart apart. The animal was begging without words, starving without making a fuss, hoping without understanding why it had been left to suffer. "I'll help you," Ozzie said quietly, somehow. Before he could do anything else, engines growled on the dirt road. Several trucks, coming fast. The horse's ears perked up, and for the first time, Ozzie saw fear in those dark eyes. Ozzie stepped outside just as 3 pickup trucks pulled into the clearing. His neighbor Nolan Graves stepped out of the first one. The other trucks carried a woman and 2 younger men. They looked worried, angry, and rushed all at once. "Aussie Brooks," Nolan called. "We need to talk about what you bought here today." The woman approached with a determined walk. "I'm Sarah Marsh." "Ezekiel is my father. He's missing from his care facility. He doesn't have the legal right to sell anything." Ozzie felt his chest sink. One of the younger men pointed toward the barn. "There's a $12,000 horse in there. Our grandfather raised him from a colt. His name is Thunder. We've been searching for him for days." Thunder, a home, a family, a story deeper than Ozzie could have imagined. Ozzie tried to stay calm. "Your father sold me the barn. I didn't know any of this." "That sale isn't valid," Sarah said. "Dad has dementia." A heavy silence fell. Thunder shifted inside the barn, the sound weak and painful. "That horse is dying," Azy finally said. "It needs help right now." The family stared back at him. Their anger wavered, their guilt showed, their fear grew. They wanted the horse back, but they could not save it. And Aussie, the man who had no money left in his pockets, was the only one standing there willing to try. No one knew how fast things were about to spiral from confusion into legal chaos. No one knew officials were already on their way. And no one knew how close Thunder was to his last breath. But very soon the fate of a starving giant horse would rest on one impossible choice. A choice Aussie Brooks would have to make alone. Thunder stood inside the barn with his head low and his breathing heavy while the Marsh family argued outside. The late afternoon light cut across the dirt yard, catching the dust rising from the trucks and the worry on everyone's faces. Aussie Brooks could feel the weight of the moment sitting on his shoulders like a sack of wet feed. He had walked into a simple deal, hoping to survive another week. Now he stood in the middle of a fight he never asked for, between a dying horse and a family that wanted him back but could not save him. "That horse needs a vet today," Azy said. "Not tomorrow, not next week. Today." Sarah Marsh looked torn. "We want to help Thunder, we really do. But my father's medical bills have drained us dry. The nursing home costs more than we can keep up with. We didn't even know Dad had taken Thunder away." Her son Michael stepped forward. "You don't own him. Dad didn't have the right to sell anything." Azy sighed heavily. "Maybe not. But ignoring a sick animal doesn't bring your legal rights back." The silence that followed was thick and painful. Thunder let out a low sound that echoed across the yard. It was the kind of sound that made even strong men flinch. A cloud of dust appeared on the horizon. Another truck was coming. Dr. Martinez pulled into the yard just minutes later, stepping down from her vehicle with a calm but serious expression. She followed Azy into the barn and stopped the second she saw Thunder. "This horse is in trouble," she said. "Severely dehydrated, malnourished, and possibly fighting colic. That leg injury might be infected." Sarah covered her mouth. Michael's fists curled at his sides. "How long does he have?" Azy asked. "A week at most," Dr. Martinez replied. "But with immediate treatment, he has a fighting chance." She laid out the truth plainly. Thunder needed fluids, antibiotics, pain medicine, and proper feed. The cost, just to stabilize him, would be $1,500, more than Azy had seen in months, more than the family could manage. "What if I pay for the treatment?" Azy asked. "You don't own him," Michael snapped. "You can't afford to save him," Azy fired back. Dr. Martinez raised her voice. "Arguing doesn't help the horse. Either someone steps up or he dies." Before they could speak again, the sound of another engine rolled into the clearing, a sheriff's patrol car. Sheriff Davidson climbed out looking tired, like a man who had seen too many problems and not enough answers. A woman in a business suit stepped out with him, carrying a briefcase. "Sarah Marsh," the sheriff called. "This is Ms. Linda Foster from Adult Protective Services. We received a report about your father making unauthorized property sales." Sarah's face drained of color. "Sheriff, please. We're trying to handle this." Ms. Foster spoke in a firm voice. "Any assets transferred during a period of diminished capacity must be frozen while we investigate." Azy felt the ground shift under his feet. "What does that mean for the horse?" "It means nothing can be done until we get a ruling, Ms." Foster said. "No treatment, no transport, no decisions." Dr. Martinez stepped forward. "That horse won't live through the night." The official hesitated. "I understand, but the law doesn't keep this animal breathing," the vet said sharply. Thunder swayed where he stood. His legs shook. His breathing grew thinner. Hours passed while Ms. Foster made calls. Sheriff Davidson waited. The Marsh family whispered. AZ stood at the door of the barn watching Thunder fight to stay upright. No one touched him. No one was allowed to. Paperwork held more power than mercy. When Miss Foster returned, she looked beaten. "County attorney can't give us an answer until tomorrow morning." "That horse will be dead by morning," Dr. Martinez said. Sarah broke down crying. "Thunder was Dad's pride and joy. This isn't right." AZ stepped forward. "I'm treating him." Everyone turned at once. "You can't," Miss Foster said. "It's against the law." "Then arrest me," AZ said, taking out his wallet. "Doctor, what do you need to start?" Sheriff Davidson stepped toward him. "Aussie, think carefully. You could be charged." "Will charges bring Thunder back to life?" AZ asked. Silence settled over the yard. Sarah wiped her tears. Dad would want him saved. AZ handed Dr. Martinez $400. "Start with this." The sheriff stared at him for a long moment, then stepped back. He did not stop the vet. Thunder received emergency fluids and medicine right there in the barn. The horse rested his head against AZ's shoulder, too weak to stand tall. They loaded him into the trailer with careful hands, nearly losing him twice when his legs buckled. AZ stayed beside him the whole ride to the clinic, whispering to keep him calm as the trailer bounced over the dirt road. But the chaos was far from over. At the clinic, Thunder collapsed from stress before they even reached the treatment stall. Dr. Martinez worked fast, hooking him up to machines, pushing fluids, checking his heart. Sheriff Davidson entered slowly. "Mr. Brooks, charges may still be filed against you." "Do what you need to do," AZ said without looking up, "but save the horse." Miss Foster hurried in. "There's been a development. Mr. Marsh had a clear moment this afternoon. He told staff he wanted Thunder sold to the young man who needed him." "Me?" AZ asked. Michael nodded. 3 staff members heard him say it. The room fell still. Thunder's breathing steadied. His eyes opened wider. His heartbeat slowed to something safe. "What's his prognosis?" Sarah asked softly. "Still critical," Dr. Martinez said, "but he's fighting." AZ stayed by Thunder's side as night fell, refusing to move. The legal battle wasn't over. But the fight for Thunder's life had only just begun. Thunder made it through the night. When the morning sun slid across the clinic windows, the giant horse was still standing, still breathing, still fighting. His eyes were clearer, brighter than the broken animal who had stood in that dark barn the day before. Aussie Brooks had barely slept. He stayed by Thunder's stall, keeping a hand on the horse's neck every time Thunder drifted toward panic or pain. When Dr. Martinez returned at sunrise, she checked Thunder's heart and nodded with relief. "He's not out of danger yet," she said, "but he's stronger today, stronger than I expected." Ozzy exhaled slowly. It felt like breathing for the first time in days. The Marsh family stepped inside the clinic a little later. Sarah, Michael, and the younger brother gathered around Thunder's stall. They watched quietly as Thunder lifted his head and took interest in the small pile of fresh hay. "That's the best he's looked in weeks," Sarah said. Her voice was soft, hopeful. Dr. Martinez walked them through the next steps. Thunder's leg needed long-term support and therapy. His hooves needed constant care. His weight had to be restored slowly. The cost would be high. The time required would be long. Months, maybe more. There was no way around it. Izzy stood beside Thunder, rubbing the horse's thick neck. "I'll do it," he said. "I'll take care of him, all of it." Sarah looked at him with guilt and relief mixed together. "We want to honor Dad's wishes. He asked to sell Thunder to you during his clear moment." The staff wrote it down. "Our lawyer says it won't erase the messy paperwork, but it gives us a way forward." "What does that mean?" AZ asked. Michael stepped closer. "Thunder is yours, as long as you promise one thing. When Grandpa has a good day, we want to bring him to see Thunder. He may forget a lot now, but he never forgets this horse." AZ reached out his hand. "That's a promise." Thunder nickered softly, nudging AZ's shoulder like he understood the deal being made. 8 months later, the wide fields of Brooks Ranch looked different. Full, green, alive. And in the biggest pasture stood Thunder, strong as ever, his coat shining in the afternoon sun. His injured leg had healed well with Dr. Martinez's care. His weight had returned. His spirit, too. The giant horse no longer looked like a shadow left behind in a forgotten barn. He looked like he belonged to the land itself. Sarah and Michael pulled up in their truck with Ezekiel sitting in a wheelchair in the back. The old man had grown quieter over the months. His memory slipped more days than it stayed, but when Thunder saw him through the fence, the big horse trotted forward with a strength that made the earth tremble. Ezekiel's fading eyes lit up with something sharp and familiar, a piece of his old self breaking through the fog. "Thunder," he whispered. "My boy!" Thunder pressed his muzzle into the old man's hands, lowering his head gently, like greeting a friend he had never forgotten. Ezekiel brushed the horse's face with trembling fingers. Tears rolled down Sarah's cheeks. Michael looked away, swallowing hard. Aussie stood a few steps back, hands on his belt, watching the moment unfold. It felt like the final piece of a long and hard puzzle sliding into place. "He remembers him," Sarah said softly. "Even when he forgets us, he remembers Thunder." Dr. Martinez soon arrived for her routine check. She smiled when she saw the bond between Ezekiel and the horse. "Thunder looks perfect," she said, patting his side. "You did everything right, AZ." Aussie nodded. "He saved me too, more than he'll ever know." As the visit wrapped up, Aussie helped wheel Ezekiel back to the truck. The old man kept glancing over his shoulder at Thunder until the horse disappeared from view. "We'll be back next month," Sarah said. "Thunder will be waiting," AZ replied. When the truck drove off, AZ walked back toward the pasture. Thunder lifted his head the second he saw him. The horse stepped forward, nudging his shoulder the way he always did when he wanted attention. "Come on, boy," Aussie said with a smile. "We've got work to do." Thunder followed him willingly, strong and steady on the dirt path. The sun dipped lower, warming the land with a soft golden glow. That barn purchase had started as a mistake, a desperate gamble. But in the end, it became the choice that saved a horse's life, healed a family's grief, and gave a lonely rancher a new beginning. Some folks measure wealth in dollars. Aussie Brooks learned to measure it in second chances, and Thunder, once forgotten and starving, had become the strongest part of his world.